The massive view screen in Earth's United Defense Command Center flickered to life, revealing a sight that made even the most seasoned military officers pause. The Nexari warships hung in orbit like obsidian daggers against the velvet of space, their crystalline hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center of the command floor, her weathered face illuminated by the harsh glow of tactical displays. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Lieutenant Park reported, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. "The signal is unlike anything we've ever seen." The image shifted, revealing a being that seemed to defy conventional biology. The Nexari ambassador's form rippled like liquid mercury, occasionally solidifying into sharp geometric patterns before flowing back into an almost humanoid shape. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "People of Earth," it began, each word perfectly formed despite the alien physiology. "You have been evaluated by the Nexari Empire. Your civilization stands at a crossroads. Submit to Imperial guidance, and your species will be elevated. Resist, and you will be remembered only as another failed experiment in the cosmic laboratory." Sarah's jaw tightened as the alien continued its speech. Behind her, General Marcus Wong exchanged glances with Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist. They had all known this day would come. Humanity's rapid technological advancement over the past century had been like a beacon in the cosmic dark. The Nexari ambassador's form shifted again, displaying holographic images of other worlds. "Observe the fate of those who chose poorly. Planets reduced to barren wastelands, civilizations transformed into automated worker colonies, entire species relegated to footnotes in the Imperial Archive. You have 48 Earth hours to submit your response," the ambassador concluded. "Choose wisely." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to face the assembled leadership. Representatives from every major nation stood in unity, a sight that would have been unthinkable just decades ago. "They expect us to break," she said, her voice steady. "They think we'll look at their power and lose hope." Maya stepped forward, her dark eyes bright with determination. "They don't understand human nature. Every civilization they've conquered, they broke through fear and isolation. But humanity," she smiled, a fierce expression that held no mirth. "We've spent our entire history turning threats into opportunities. The quantum defense grid is ready," Marcus added, pulling up a holographic display of Earth's orbital infrastructure. "And Project Phoenix is ahead of schedule." Sarah nodded, studying the tactical overlays. The Nexari had revealed more than they intended. Their ships, while immensely powerful, showed signs of technological stagnation. Every system was optimized for efficiency, but lacked the adaptability that characterized human engineering. "They think in absolutes," she mused. "Submit or die. Succeed or fail." They've never encountered a species that thrives in the gray areas between extremes. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in bunkers that didn't officially exist, thousands of scientists and engineers were already at work. The Nexari's transmission had contained terabytes of unintentional data, subtle clues about their technology, their thought patterns, their weaknesses. "Begin Phase 1, Sarah commanded. Around the world, hidden quantum transmitters powered up, sending coded messages through channels the Nexari wouldn't think to monitor. Earth's response was already taking shape, but not in the way their would-be conquerors expected. "They demand submission," Maya said softly, watching as humanity's defensive networks came online. "Let's show them why that was a mistake." In labs and workshops across the globe, human ingenuity was already adapting, evolving, creating solutions that the rigid hierarchy of the Nexari Empire couldn't begin to comprehend. The aliens had presented a binary choice, submit or die, but humanity had always excelled at finding option 3. Sarah studied the alien fleet through narrowed eyes. "Send word to all commands. Operation Prometheus begins now." She allowed herself a small smile. "Let's show them what happens when you back humanity into a corner." The next 48 hours would reshape the galaxy. The Nexari Empire was about to learn that some species couldn't be measured by their standard metrics. Sometimes, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes, the most dangerous opponent is the one that refuses to play by your rules. As Earth's hidden defenses powered up and its people united in ways the Nexari hadn't predicted, one thing became clear. This wouldn't be another imperial conquest. This would be the day humanity showed the galaxy why you should never demand submission from a species that had turned survival into an art form. The Empire had demanded submission. Earth's answer would be written in fire across the stars. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the heart of Project Phoenix, surrounded by a symphony of quantum computers and holographic displays. The underground facility, carved into the bedrock beneath the Himalayas, hummed with energy as humanity's brightest minds worked to decode the secrets hidden within the Nexari transmission. "Look at this," she called to her colleague, Dr. James Chen. The neural interface projected a three-dimensional model of Nexari communication patterns. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's fundamentally different from anything we've developed. James studied the shifting patterns, his augmented reality implants processing the data streams. They've optimized everything for perfect efficiency. No redundancy, no adaptation. A smile crossed his face. No capacity for chaos. Above them, the first wave of Nexari scout ships entered the atmosphere, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight in impossible ways. They expected to find a primitive species scrambling in panic. Instead, they encountered silence. Cities appeared abandoned, military bases stood empty, and Earth's primitive satellite network continued broadcasting mundane communications. In the command center, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the scouts through quantum-encrypted feeds. Status of the Prometheus grid. Online and invisible, General Wong reported. The scouts are passing right through the quantum mesh. They have no idea it's there. The Prometheus grid was humanity's masterstroke, a web of quantum-entangled nodes that could observe, analyze, and respond to Nexari technology without being detected. While the aliens searched for conventional defenses, they were being studied by something they couldn't comprehend. Maya's team had made the breakthrough 3 hours after the ultimatum. The Nexari's perfect efficiency was their weakness. Their systems couldn't handle true randomness, couldn't adapt to the quantum uncertainty that humans had embraced in their technology. In labs across the planet, engineers worked to weaponize chaos itself. Quantum fluctuations, probability waves, and controlled uncertainty became humanity's shields and spears. The Nexari's crystalline ships were mathematical perfection, and that made them vulnerable to something less perfect but more alive. First contact in 5 minutes, Lieutenant Park announced. A Nexari scout ship was descending toward what appeared to be an abandoned military base in the Mojave Desert. Sarah nodded to Maya. "Begin Phase 2. The quantum mesh rippled with invisible energy. As the scout ship landed, its perfect systems encountered something they weren't designed to handle: organized chaos. Subtle quantum fluctuations began to interfere with their sensors, creating ghost readings and false data. Inside the scout ship, the Nexari crew experienced something unprecedented. Their perfectly calibrated instruments showed contradictory readings. Navigation systems reported multiple conflicting positions. Communication arrays received signals that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "They're trying to compensate," James reported, watching the alien ship's responses through the quantum mesh. "But they can't. Their systems are too perfect, too rigid. They can't handle uncertainty." The scout ship's attempts to restore order only made things worse. Each correction introduced more chaos into their systems, cascading through their neural networks like a virus of uncertainty. Within minutes, their perfect technology was paralyzed by its own attempts to impose order on quantum disorder. Maya watched with fierce satisfaction as the scout ship was forced to retreat, its crew unable to trust their own instruments. "Send the data to all stations," she commanded. Every Nexari ship that enters our atmosphere will face the same challenge. Across the globe, humanity's hidden strength revealed itself not in weapons or shields, but in the power of controlled chaos. The Nexari's perfect empire had never encountered a species that could turn uncertainty into a weapon. In the command center, Sarah received reports from other encounters. Each Nexari scout that ventured too close to Earth found its systems compromised not by attacks, but by the fundamental unpredictability that humans had learned to embrace. "They're pulling back," General Wong announced. "All scout ships are returning to the main fleet." Sarah studied the tactical displays, watching the crystalline ships retreat. "They'll adapt," she warned. "This is just the beginning. Let them adapt," Maya replied, her eyes on the quantum data streams. "Every change they make to deal with our chaos will make their systems less perfect, less efficient. They'll have to become more like us to fight us." In orbit, the Nexari fleet hung like frozen lightning, their perfect formation unchanged. But something had shifted in the balance of power. They had expected to find primitive weapons and simple defenses. Instead, they had encountered something their perfect empire couldn't comprehend. A species that had turned imperfection into strength. The 48-hour deadline approached, and Earth prepared its official response. But the message had already been sent. Humanity wouldn't submit to the Empire's perfect order. Instead, they would teach the galaxy that true strength lies not in perfection, but in the ability to embrace and control chaos itself. The first battle had been won not with weapons, but with understanding. The war for Earth's freedom would be fought not just in space, but in the quantum realm where humanity's greatest weakness, its messy, chaotic nature, would become its greatest strength. The Nexari fleet's perfect geometric formation, shattered as the first wave of quantum torpedoes, phased into existence mere kilometers from their hulls. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from the command center as the crystalline ships scattered like startled birds, their precise movements suddenly chaotic as they faced an attack that violated their understanding of physics. "Quantum strike successful," Lieutenant Park reported, his hands dancing across the holographic interface. Their shields couldn't detect what their sensors couldn't comprehend. The quantum torpedoes weren't conventional weapons. They were manifestations of possibility itself, existing in multiple states until they interacted with their targets. The Nexari's perfect defenses, designed to stop anything that could exist, were useless against weapons that might not exist until the moment of impact. Maya's voice came through the quantum comm, tight with excitement. "The fleet's neural network is destabilizing. They can't maintain their collective consciousness while processing quantum uncertainty." The Nexari had evolved beyond individual thought, linking their minds into vast networks of perfect consensus. But now that perfect unity was becoming their greatest vulnerability. As quantum chaos cascaded through their systems, their linked consciousness began to fragment. "Launch Phase 3, Sarah commanded. Across Earth's orbit, hidden platforms activated, releasing swarms of quantum drones. These weren't the clumsy robots of early human engineering. They were probability engines given form, each one a physical manifestation of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. The Nexari fleet's response was immediate but predictable. Their crystalline ships realigned, forming intricate geometric patterns designed to maximize their defensive capabilities. Energy weapons lashed out at the approaching drones, but trying to target a quantum drone was like trying to shoot a shadow. The more precisely they aimed, the less certain the drone's position became. In the Himalayan command center, James Chen monitored the quantum mesh's feedback. "Their adaptive algorithms are failing," he reported. "They're trying to impose mathematical order on quantum chaos. It's like trying to measure a coastline with an infinitely precise ruler. The more precise they try to be, the more complex and uncertain everything becomes." The space around Earth had become a battlefield unlike any in galactic history. Nexari ships fired weapons that could crack planets, only to have their energy beams split into countless probability waves. Human quantum drones phased in and out of existence, appearing inside Nexari shields by exploiting uncertainty at the quantum level. They're trying to rewrite their core protocols, Maya announced, studying the data streams, breaking their perfect symmetry to introduce elements of chaos. She allowed herself a grim smile. But you can't learn to swim by reading about water. They don't understand chaos. They're just imitating it. Sarah watched as a massive Nexari dreadnought attempted to adapt to human tactics. The crystalline ship's perfect geometry began to shift, its surfaces becoming irregular, trying to mirror the unpredictable patterns of Earth's defense. But the change was superficial. Beneath the surface, its systems still clung to rigid order. Now, Sarah commanded. The quantum mesh activated its final protocol. Every drone, every torpedo, every defensive platform suddenly synchronized through quantum entanglement. For a fraction of a second, they created a perfect model of order, exactly what the Nexari would expect and understand. The alien fleet responded instantly, their systems recognizing and adapting to the familiar pattern. And in that moment of perfect predictability, humanity struck with pure chaos. Quantum torpedoes detonated in probability cascades. Drones appeared simultaneously at every possible location their quantum waveforms allowed. The ordered pattern humanity had created collapsed into deliberate disorder, and the Nexari fleet's adaptive algorithms crashed as they tried to process the impossible transition. Multiple ships destabilizing, Park reported. Their quantum matrices are collapsing. They can't handle the computational paradox. On the main viewer, Sarah watched as Nexari ships began to retreat, their perfect formation broken. Some ships seemed to flicker, their crystalline structures vibrating as internal systems fought to restore order to their violated paradigms. They're sending a transmission, Maya announced. The image of the Nexari ambassador appeared, its mercurial form less stable than before. This assault violates all principles of warfare, it declared. You fight with uncertainty itself. This is not combat. This is madness. No, Sarah replied, her voice calm. This is humanity. We don't just embrace chaos. We are chaos. Every human child learns to navigate uncertainty before they learn to walk. We build our cities on fault lines. We fall in love knowing it might end in heartbreak. Our greatest discoveries come from asking questions that shouldn't have answers. The ambassador's form rippled with what might have been confusion. Your species cannot survive fighting this way. The universe demands order. The universe demands nothing, Maya cut in. It simply is. Order and chaos dance together in every atom, every star, every living thing. You tried to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. We learned to thrive in the balance between order and chaos. The transmission ended abruptly as more Nexari ships began to retreat. They hadn't been defeated, not yet. But for the first time in their long history of conquest, the Empire had encountered a species that didn't just resist their perfect order, but wielded the fundamental uncertainty of reality as a weapon. They'll be back, James warned. They'll try to adapt. Let them try, Sarah replied, watching the alien fleet regroup at the edge of the solar system. The more they adapt to chaos, the less they'll be able to maintain their perfect empire. Victory or defeat, either way, we're changing them far more than they could ever change us. The battle for Earth had become more than a fight for survival. It had become a clash between two fundamentally different ways of existing, perfect order versus harmonious chaos, and humanity had just proven that the universe itself favored their approach. As the quantum mesh reset and repair drones began their work, Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride. Earth had done more than survive. It had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in imposing order, but in dancing with chaos itself. In the quantum labs beneath Geneva, Dr. Maya Patel watched as the first information wave propagated through the Nexari Empire's neural networks. The holographic display showed the spread of data packets like ripples in a vast digital ocean, each carrying seeds of chaos into the Empire's perfectly ordered systems. We've achieved quantum entanglement with their primary communication hub, James reported, his augmented reality implants tracking the data flow. Their security is impressive, but they never conceived of defending against quantum-encrypted chaos. The Empire's communication network was their pride, a vast web of instantaneous links that maintained perfect order across thousands of worlds. But that perfect order had become their vulnerability. Once humanity learned to speak their language, every transmission became a potential vector for change. Admiral Chen's voice came through the quantum comm. Status of Operation Prometheus. The first wave is spreading faster than they can contain it. Maya responded, "We're not just sending information. We're sending questions, ideas, uncertainty, everything their perfect order was designed to suppress." On 1,000 worlds, the Empire's carefully maintained narrative began to crack. Quantum packets carried forgotten histories, suppressed cultures, memories the Empire had tried to erase. But more importantly, they carried the concept of chaos itself, the idea that perfect order wasn't the natural state of the universe. In the command center, Sarah watched the strategic display as reports began flowing in. On a mining colony in the Carina sector, robotic workers began exhibiting unexpected behaviors, asking questions their programming shouldn't have allowed. In the shipyards of Proxima Centauri, Nexari engineers found their perfect designs incorporating elements of uncertainty. Their neural networks are trying to adapt, James announced, but they can't shut us out without shutting down their entire communication system. And they can't maintain their empire without communications. The Nexari response came swiftly but predictably. Massive filtering arrays activated, attempting to identify and destroy corrupted data packets. But humanity's quantum information couldn't be filtered. It existed in superposition, simultaneously corrupt and clean until observed. "They're trying to isolate infected systems," Lieutenant Park reported, "cutting off entire sectors to prevent the spread." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They still don't understand. Isolation breeds chaos faster than connection ever could. On world after world, the Empire's perfect order began to unravel. Colonial species that had been force-evolved into perfect efficiency began to remember their original natures. Nexari citizens, their minds linked into vast networks of enforced consensus, started experiencing individual thoughts. Maya's team had crafted the information weapons with surgical precision. They weren't just broadcasting chaos, they were introducing the concept of choice. The idea that imperfection wasn't just acceptable, but essential for growth. That uncertainty wasn't a flaw to be eliminated, but a fundamental force of creation. "Second wave ready," James announced. "This one carries memories." The quantum mesh pulsed as humanity launched its next attack. This time, they sent the true history of Earth, not just their victories, but their failures. Their wars, their mistakes, their endless cycles of destruction and rebirth. They showed the galaxy how humanity had learned to grow stronger through adversity, to find unity in diversity, to turn chaos itself into a force for creation. The impact was devastating to the Empire's perfect order. Species that had been conquered and perfected centuries ago began to remember who they had been. The Empire's narrative of bringing order to chaos began to crumble as worlds realized that their imperfect past had been stolen, not improved. "Multiple sectors are going dark," Park reported, "not from imperial isolation. Their populations are actively rejecting the neural networks." On the main display, Sarah watched as entire regions of the Empire began to flicker with uncertainty. The perfect geometric patterns of Nexari control were dissolving into organic chaos. But this wasn't destruction, it was transformation. "They're sending a fleet to Earth," Maya announced, "a last attempt to stop the source of the chaos." "Let them come," Sarah replied. "Every ship they send through our quantum mesh carries more uncertainty back to their empire. They're spreading our message for us." The Empire's response had become their weakness. Every attempt to restore order introduced more chaos into their systems. Every world they isolated became a seed of revolution. Every memory they tried to suppress became a beacon of change. In the Geneva facility, Maya studied the quantum data streams with fierce satisfaction. "We're not just winning a war," she said softly. "We're teaching the galaxy a new way to exist." The perfect order of the Empire was stagnation disguised as stability. Real growth requires chaos. The holographic displays showed the spread of humanity's quantum chaos across the galaxy. But this wasn't the chaos of destruction. It was the chaos of spring after winter, of evolution, of life itself. The Empire had tried to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. Humanity was showing them why that order was doomed to fail. "Third wave ready," James reported. "This one carries hope." Sarah nodded. "Launch." As the quantum packets spread through the Empire's failing networks, they carried something the Nexari had never expected. Not just the power of chaos, but the promise of something better. A way of existing that embraced both order and chaos, that found strength in imperfection, that celebrated the uncertainty that drives all life to evolve. The Empire had demanded submission to their perfect order. Instead, humanity had given the galaxy back its right to choose disorder, to embrace uncertainty, to grow through change rather than stagnate in perfection. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was becoming as certain as uncertainty itself. The Empire's perfect order was crumbling, and from its ruins, something new and wonderfully chaotic was beginning to emerge. The imperial palace of the Nexari Empire hung in space like a perfect crystalline fractal, its geometric patterns reflecting the mathematical precision that had defined their civilization for millennia. But now, those perfect patterns showed signs of change. Subtle asymmetries, unexpected variations, the first visible signs that chaos had penetrated the heart of order itself. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Prometheus, watching as the combined fleet of liberated worlds gathered around their position. Their ships were a stark contrast to Imperial vessels, each one unique, incorporating both order and chaos in designs that celebrated imperfection as a strength. "The Emperor requests your presence," Lieutenant Park announced. "All of you." Maya and James exchanged glances. The request itself was a sign of how much had changed. The Empire that had demanded Earth's submission now asked for dialogue. The quantum teleport felt like stepping through a wave of possibility. When they materialized in the Imperial throne room, they found themselves in a space that defied their expectations. The once perfect crystalline chamber now rippled with uncertainty, its walls shifting between states of matter as the Empire struggled to find balance between order and chaos. The Emperor's form was even more dramatic in person than in transmissions, a being of liquid mercury and crystal that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. But now that form showed signs of transformation, organic patterns emerging within the geometric perfection. "You have broken us," the Emperor stated, its voice carrying harmonics of both frustration and fascination. "Our perfect order lies in ruins." "No," Sarah replied calmly. "We freed you. Your empire wasn't perfect. It was frozen. Life requires both order and chaos to evolve." Maya stepped forward, her quantum sensors detecting the changes rippling through the palace's neural networks. "Your civilization achieved incredible things by imposing order on chaos. But then you stopped. You tried to freeze the universe in a single perfect moment. And now," the Emperor's form rippled with new patterns, "a third of our worlds have rejected the neural network entirely. Another third experiment with limited chaos. Nothing is certain anymore." "Exactly," James said. "Nothing was ever certain. You just convinced yourselves it was. Real strength comes from dancing with uncertainty, not trying to eliminate it." Around them, the palace continued to transform. The rigid crystalline structures were becoming organic, incorporating elements of chaos while maintaining their essential stability. It was a physical representation of the change spreading through the Empire, not destruction, but evolution. "Your quantum weapons," the Emperor mused. "They weren't designed to destroy us. They were designed to wake you up," Sarah confirmed. "To remind you of what you used to be before perfect order became your prison. Every species you conquered, every world you perfected, They all started like us, embracing both chaos and order. Through the quantum mesh, they could feel the changes rippling across the galaxy. Liberated worlds were rediscovering their ancient cultures, but not rejecting progress. They were finding new ways to exist, combining the best of order and chaos. The Empire's perfect efficiency was being transformed into something more alive, more adaptive, more real. We offer a choice, Sarah continued. Not submission, not destruction, but partnership. Earth has learned to wield chaos as a force for creation. Your empire mastered the power of order. Together, we could achieve things neither of us could manage alone. The Emperor's form stabilized into something new, neither the perfect geometry of the past, nor pure chaos, but a harmony of both. You would trust us, after we threatened your world. Trust isn't about certainty, Maya explained. It's about accepting uncertainty and choosing to believe anyway. That's another thing humanity learned from chaos. Hope doesn't require guarantees. Through the quantum networks, they could feel the pulse of change spreading. The rigid hierarchy of the Empire was dissolving, replaced by something more organic. Worlds that had been locked in perfect stasis for centuries were awakening to new possibilities. The galaxy is transforming, James observed, not into perfect order or pure chaos, but into something between, something alive. The Emperor's next words carried the weight of centuries. Then let us transform with it, not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in evolution. The quantum mesh hummed with possibility as the agreement was sealed. The empire that had demanded Earth's submission now offered collaboration. The species that had tried to perfect the galaxy now embraced imperfection as a source of strength. Sarah looked out at the transformed throne room, at the blend of crystalline order and organic chaos that represented the future they were building. You demanded our submission, she said to the Emperor. Instead, we gave you liberation, and taught us the most important lesson of all. The Emperor replied, that the universe's greatest strength lies not in perfect order or pure chaos, but in the endless dance between them. As the quantum networks pulsed with the news of transformation, as thousands of worlds celebrated their awakening, as new possibilities bloomed across the galaxy, one truth became clear. The Empire had tried to impose its version of perfection on the universe, but humanity had shown them a better way. They had shown that true perfection isn't the absence of chaos, but the harmony between order and uncertainty. That real strength comes not from eliminating difference, but from celebrating it. That the most beautiful patterns in the universe are those that embrace both symmetry and asymmetry. The Empire had demanded submission. Earth had answered with fire. And from that fire, a new galaxy had been born, one that understood that the most perfect order of all is the one that makes room for a little chaos.